Hello, scrappers, recyclers, and investors. Welcome to Shark Scrapper Live, where every Sunday we talk about things that are going on in the precious metals market, the industrial metals market, businesses that are surrounding our great world of scrapping and recycling. It is awesome to be with you today. We have a really fun show lined up talking about some really interesting things this Sunday. I want to start out by saying hello to everybody that's joined us here. JR Cat came in first, but he might get distracted. Truck Fan 542 might drop in as well. HH Recycling is going to be hanging out with us while he works on a grow room. I'm guessing that's for vegetables. David Fillet, Roger at CU Scrapping. Great to have you all here. Freaking awesome. Freaking great to have you here. Patrick Williams, an electronic scrapper. Always great to have everybody on board as we dive into these really interesting subjects every week. And Mike Meltdown just... I would hate to drag you away from Puppy Bowl. So, if you want to watch this on the replay, that's cool, man. I get it. I understand completely. Oh, man. And Living Off Scraps, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. All right. I tell you, it's been a really fun week, and it's been really interesting to watch what's going on in this precious metal that we're going to talk about first here. And the precious metal that is this week's subject is gold. Now, we're starting out on the APMEX website. You all know it, but I have to repeat it. I am not sponsored by APMEX. I do not get anything of monetary value from APMEX. I just use their site among other sites to purchase my physical gold and silver. And that's the only way that I recommend anybody hold gold and silver is as a physical in your hand product. There are lots of paper certificates out there, more than there are the gold or silver to go behind them. And if your gold or silver is locked up in somebody else's vault that you can't get to, like a bank safety deposit box, you may not be able to get to it when you need it. So it's really important that you have some of this. And I recommend everybody have some gold and silver in their portfolio for many reasons. Gold has been on a tear. I tell you what, we look real quick here. We see that gold is 2008.77 and some change, but look at this. We had a real nice spike here not too long ago, pushing 2,900. And that spike was here. We're on the 3-day, and you can see that early on we climbed up. We had a little bit of up and down, relatively flat. Then we had this spike pushing 2,900, dropped off and have stabled out again. But gold has got some room to run here. I want you to remember this number here, this 2902. I want you to remember this number because this is going to be important as we go forward in the gold discussion. If we look at the week, we saw that gold is up 2.15%. And, for the most part, it was a pretty good week. We saw the climb up to this relative plateau that we've got going on here with some up and downs in the week here. But, just a really good week for gold. For the month, we're up 7.1%. Again, these are really good numbers. This is really good for us in the sense of what we do as scrappers and recyclers. If we look at the year, let's just get right up here to looking at the year. We can see gold has really had a pretty good climb. It's up 39.2%, and we see that we've had some periods over the straight line, some below. So, we've got a pretty nice, you see you got this, we go up, we kind of come down a little, we go up, we kind of come down a little, we go up. It's a nice pattern for the growth to be in. And there's some reasons why it behaves this way that we're going to talk about in a minute. moving away from the AppMex website, we go over here to the trading economics charts. I like these charts because I can put the candlesticks on, and this allows us to see what the big investors are doing and the discussions that they're having on gold. And we can see here where gold held above the 2,860 mark, remaining near record highs with growing expectations that the major central banks will loosen their monetary policies, and rate futures are playing in here. But the big thing that's going on here is, let's just face it, politics drives gold because politics drives uncertainty in the world, or certainty in the world, one way or the other. And when investors are nervous, they will go to things like gold. And so investors are nervous for a number of reasons right now. You've got the unresolved issues of whether or not there's going to be tariffs from the U.S. You have a lot of international folks who, when the Russian oligarchs had a lot of their money frozen, started going into gold because they were afraid of assets getting frozen. You have a lot of central banks that were buying gold, and that drives the prices up for the gold. If we zoom in here to the later part of the period, we can see some real nice big green candlesticks pushing up here, and then a little bit of drop off. These push up again. These are these waves that we were seeing. And this, in the later period, you see a lot of nice green candlesticks pushing this number, pushing the number even higher. Now, remember I told you to hang on to that. Keep in mind that $2,900 dollar value. And the reason for that is because I'm not going to show you these charts because they're really confusing. You got to study them pretty hard. I was looking at the technical trading charts for gold. And one of the things that the investors that use what they call technical trading signs, they were talking about how there's what they call resistance in the 2,900 range. But if we bust through that 2,900 range in a good way, in a solid way, then the next level of resistance, or resistance being, where it would be a cap on the increase in pricing, would be around 3,000. And that's great news for us. They also talk about what they call support. Support means it shouldn't get below a certain value. It's being supported to stay above that level. In the 2790 range, between, depending upon which you look at, 2770 all the way up 2790. So what they're saying is that if we bust above 2,900, then we could possibly get up to 3,000, but don't believe it's going to get much below this 27-ish range in here. And that becomes, you can see that when we go to the forecast line on here. What you can see is that they're expecting a little bit of a pullback down, and then it's going to climb back up again and potentially bust above that 2,900 range. And if it does that, then we could get up in this 3,000 range. Now, what does this mean for us in the scrapping and recycling world? Well, it means that the value of our printed circuit boards, especially our higher end printed circuit boards, which is really driven by the value of gold, is going to continue to increase. So you could make the argument that if you have some boards, higher end boards especially, that you're thinking about selling, maybe you hang on to those for a little bit if you can, and maybe let those prices go up even a little bit more. I wouldn't, I wouldn't get scared if you see the price start to drop a little bit here, because it's probably going to go back up again. So I wouldn't necessarily be in a rush to sell those boards if you have the stomach to wait through what might be a little bit of a downturn here, because it'll come back up again. Now, of course, so much depends on where your situation is. If you are in the position where you need to sell things for the cash flow, or for your own purposes, in which case this is a great place to be selling because gold is really high. We're talking record highs, right? So, if you have some gold and you need some money, this is a perfectly good time to sell some of that gold. And if you need cash for your hobby or your business and you've got some boards, well, the yard should be paying some pretty good prices right now. And if your yard hasn't increased their price on boards in the last week or two or so, and they're not expecting to, then your yard is taking advantage of you, and trying to make some more money on the back end because they know that the prices are going up. Now, having said that, they may have already increased their prices. They may have baked that into their prices already. So, if they increased their prices a few weeks back, they were baking in this higher demand coming up here. So they may have already made this adjustment. But if your yard hasn't increased prices in quite a while on circuit boards, you may be kind of wondering why they haven't, because this is a good, strong demand signal. All right, well, let's take a look at what's going on in the chat on gold. Let's see. Let's come back up here. Righty. So, HH Recycling does confirm that it's vegetables. All right. Kitco has got their gold at 28.6. Yeah, that's a very good point. You always want to make sure that you're shopping around when you're looking at where you're going to buy or sell materials to, especially if it's somebody like an APMEX or a Kitco or a JM Bullion. Shop around because they're all going to be a little bit different. They're all going to have some different premiums. And so, you might be able to get some better deals, either buying or selling, depending upon what you're doing. And of course, your local coin dealers and pawn shops are another place to do some of that. You might be able to negotiate better prices with your coin shop or your pawn shop if you know them and you work with them on a regular basis. But you can't just walk in cold off the street, never having dealt with the coin dealer or a pawn shop before, and start demanding, spot price or something like that. That's that could be dicey. Freaking Awesome and says, remember back in 2000? We can when we look at those charts, we see when gold was down in those 1700s, 1600s. I mean, I bought some back then, so I'm scratching my head whether or not I want to even sell. I mean, I didn't buy a lot of gold. I had some, and the gold that I did buy was just because I wanted to have some exemplar gold, like a gold eagle and a gold maple leaf and a gold Britannia. I just wanted to have it in my collection. Now, I don't know if I'm going to sell it at this point, because I never really bought gold so much for my investment purposes as much as I did silver. E-Waste Mike is in the house. Welcome, welcome. Scrapping Irish, welcome, welcome. Great you all are here. Let's see, what other comments do we have on gold or silver right now? This also says for people like Electronic Scrapper and Scrapping Irish that are doing their own refining, if you've been refining and storing up some of the gold that you've produced, this might be a good time for you to think about selling some of that, because you might have something going there. Let's see. Roger has got a Gaylord full of material ready to go, hoping to get that out this week. Be nice if that was a Gaylord full of gold, wouldn't it? Holy cow. What kind of boards you got in there, Roger? If you want to share, you don't have to, man. But if you want to, go ahead and drop a comment on what all you have in there. Mr. Matthews is in the house. Welcome, Ian. Great to have you here. Okay, so I don't see that anybody's talking about Marlene Martins. Welcome. Bon nuit. Boa nuit. So I didn't see anybody saying they were going to sell their gold, which I think is interesting. I think some folks might be saying, you know what? I think I might try to make some more off of this gold. Jose, welcome. Great to have you here, sir. All right. Well, it's really good to see gold going so well because that is beautiful for us. Our boards are going to be making us some real good money. And the thing that just, is going to be playing on our minds now is, do we hold it and try to get some more here, or do we sell? And each of you have to make that risk decision yourself. I'm going to be putting together, I've got a pallet that's getting ready. We're going to talk about this one when we talk about copper here in a little bit. But I'm going to get some stuff ready for board sort because, well, I got bills to pay, man. I need some cash going. Oh, Roger is saying that pallet that he's putting together, that Gaylord box, is high telecom, memory, server boards, Goldfinger. That's going to be some good value there, man. You're going to make some cha-ching on that one. That is very cool. Very cool. Mike's Meltdown is saying that I watch a few silver and gold stacking channels, and many dealers are saying that they're buying more than they're selling. Well, yeah, right now that would make sense because the prices are up. So there's a lot of people selling to the dealers. So that would make sense that they're buying more than they're selling right now, for the dealers, for those folks, because that's where a lot of people go to, folks like us that go to sell our material to them. All righty. Well, let us now talk about our safety note for the day. And I tell you, this one, Al, it is always my safety notes are a result of something that went on during the week. Well, this week's safety note is brought to you by one of my viewers at Shatucker, Chatucker, at Shatucker. He was watching my last video where I was breaking down a video surveillance security system. And those are pretty cool. That's a pretty cool video too. Those systems were really neat. I had about a dozen of them. They all had at least 2 hard drives in them. Some of them had 3 hard drives in them. And these were big hard drives. We're talking 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte. I even had a couple of 12 terabyte. Unfortunately, they were dead. They didn't work, which they made really nasty noises when I tried to power them up. But in that video, I showed how you could turn a low peripheral into a high peripheral by cutting off the junk, the connector, the string of connectors on the one side. And I was wearing a mask, but I was wearing the wrong kind of mask. And Atshata called me out on it, and very rightly so, because the point that he was making, and I can't argue with him at all, is that I was wearing one of these kind of like a medical or a surgical mask kind of thing. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. The reason I was wearing it was because I went over and I grabbed a mask, and I wasn't, I was in production mode, and I wasn't thinking as clearly as I should. I just said, I need to get a mask on. And so I grabbed this and put it on when what I should have had on was something like an N95. And there's a very important reason to understand these differences. So the mask that I was wearing, this surgical kind of mask, is really mostly intended to keep your germs from getting onto somebody else. Doctors wear these, medical staff wear these, and these were big during COVID as a way to keep us from spreading our germs to other people. It's better than nothing when it comes to keeping dust out of your lungs, but what you really want to wear to keep the dust out of your own lungs is something like an N95. You can see by their shape that they're going to go all the way around your nose and mask with a relatively tight seal. And that's going to help to keep the dust, do a much better job of keeping the dust out of your lungs. Whereas the medical mask, stuff can easily slide in on the sides and it is not going to filter the dust and particles as well as the N95. So when you're doing something like cutting and such, in addition to protecting your eyes, you want to make sure that you use something like an N95 to protect your lungs from the dust. Now, there are other types of respiratory protection that are very important that we keep in mind in our scrapping and recycling world, because there's dust, and that's, the N95 does a great job protecting us from dust. But sometimes we're talking about fumes that can kill us. So if you're doing any refining kind of stuff, well, you're going to have some really nasty gases that get let off. And you want to make sure that the air that you're breathing is not going to hurt you. So when you're doing something involving acids and gases, then you want to have some sort of filter type of mask. And you want to look and make sure that you're getting the right type of respiratory protection for the particular gas that you're using. And a lot of times that comes down to the filter that's on the mask. All right, so let's try doing that with a little smaller line. So make sure you're looking at the filters that you're getting for the mask and make sure that they're designed to filter out whatever it is you might be dealing with. A lot of times these are activated carbon filters. They should be fine dealing with the acids that we'll use, but you always want to confirm that before you start and get in a bad situation. Now, it's nothing that we're probably ever going to deal with on our level, but there are also situations in industry where you will have a oxygen depleted environment, in which case they will be wearing something that will produce or supply air because you won't have enough air in the ambient environment to give you the air that you need to breathe, much less filter out the nasty stuff that's in the air. But again, I don't think any of us are going to be in that situation from our hobby perspective. You might be in it from your professional perspective, depending upon what you do. So you want to make sure that you have the appropriate respiratory protection in those cases. Very, very important. Chedeker was absolutely correct in calling me out on that. Some protection is better than no protection, but you ought to be thinking about and using the right protection. And the worst part is I've got my N95s right there on the shelf. I just was, like a lot of us, we get busy, we grab something and we don't realize that, maybe we made the mistake there. So pay attention to that. And, I think I might just get rid of these masks completely from my shop so that I don't run the risk of picking up the wrong mask again. I think I might just, get rid of those or, take those, just get them out of the shop. That way I won't mistakenly grab them in the future. By the way, I am not sponsored by Uline either. I use them when I order materials and things. They actually have a warehouse distribution center not very far from where I'm located. So a lot of times I order stuff and it will show up the next day. So if you're in the U.S., Uline is a pretty good place to get the materials that you need. But there's plenty of them out there. So I wanted to use this because you can see all the different masks that are out there. And it was a good way to talk about that. So let's see what kind of discussions we've had about masks while I've been talking about that. What kind of experiences have all of you come up with here? Scrapping on the fly, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. I saw Everyday Solars coming on. Welcome. William Waller, welcome. Great to have you here. Uh, let's see here. Mask. Ian, yeah. Any mask is better than no mask. Very true. But it's best to use the right mask. But again, if you don't have any, if all you have are the surgical masks, then go ahead and use those. But K95s are not that expensive; they're worth getting. So go ahead and make that investment. Have them around your shop. uh, K95 with charcoals for filtering out some of the nasty stuff. Absolutely. Yep. Living off scraps. Welcome. Great to have you here. Andrew Powell, welcome from New Zealand. Great to have you here, sir. Let's see. Ian is saying that we call them FFP2, and FFP3 cuts out even more of the finer particles. Yeah. No, good point. Here in the U.S., we call them K95s. You're calling them FFP2 or FFP3, depending upon the level of filtration. So glad you pointed that out, Ian. Thank you. Mike's Meltdown just ordered a full face respirator. Awesome, man. That is great. That's going to be important to have. I have one that was given to me by some folks before I left Florida. I'm trying to remember the circumstance. Oh, I think I was shutting down. Yeah, I was helping a place close out their facility, and they had some that were still brand new in their box. And and the guy said, "Yeah, go ahead, take it, man. What do I care?" So I've got that, and I have a couple of filters. So I'll need to be. So I've got those for when I start messing around with refining, which I hope to do at some point here in the not too distant future. Let's see. Loeffler's on board. Welcome. Everyday Solars, I think I said hello to you. Yeah, Uline is not the cheapest. So you definitely want to do some shopping around. Again, I use them because they have a major distribution area not far from me. And because I have an account and I bought stuff with them, I get some discounts and stuff. But it's they're definitely not the cheapest when it comes to the material for sure. Any other comments on masks here? I'm looking for a mask. No, Ian, breathing through your sleeve doesn't count. Again, I suppose anything is better than nothing, but nope, that doesn't count. Sorry, especially your sleeves. I've seen the clothes you wear when you're liable to just be better just breathing the dust in the air than breathing the stuff that comes off of your sleeve. Oh, that was really mean, wasn't it? HH Recycling is saying he also has a 3M Pappy, but it's overkill yeah, it probably is. But hey, you know what? Overkill is better than not using anything, right? Oh, and Solars is going to have her mask on with this one. So that is a fortuitous thing. One last comment on masks and respiratory protection. If you do have a mask that has filters, make sure that you keep track of the change out dates on the filters. They do have a lifespan. Even if you're not using them, they can expire. So you want to check how frequently you have to replace um, the filters that are on your mask. Very, very important. All righty. Well, we're going to get on to our industrial metal now. And this is one that we all love. I mean, how many scrappers just love to go on about this particular metal. We love our copper. We're always talking about copper. Um, but copper is not exactly the I don't want to say it's not, it's not, it's a good metal. It's a really good, we love it. We get some good value from it. But there's some things going on in the copper world that we need to think about. So real quick here's the Trading Economics website for copper, and they're talking how copper futures surged above 450 a pound. Remember, futures are contracts that companies have agreed to pay at some point in the future, at some designated point for the material that they're buying. And it gives us a good idea of where the market is headed. But the big thing going on with copper here is you have a number of competing things that are both pushing the price up and dragging it back down again. So biggest producer out there, Chile, is saying that they're going to be. They do believe they're going to have increased production. It's not going to be great, but they do expect that they will have some more production going on. But there's also increased demand going on. Now, a lot of people were saying that the demand probably wasn't going to be as great as we thought because the new U.S. administration is really backtracking on things like EV requirements and electrification in general. But the other part of that that's going on is the data centers that are necessary to handle all of the bazillion bytes of data that is flying around, especially when people are doing things like Bitcoin mining and such. There's just a tremendous amount of energy consumption involved in our modern networked society. And whenever you're talking about moving energy around, copper is a metal of choice. Aluminum can sometimes substitute, but copper is the choice for power. The data itself is mostly riding on fiber optic, which is glass, but you've got to get the power in there, and the power is copper. So you've got this electrification requirement. Now, the other things that are doing a push me, pull you on the price for copper is you've got China that, are they going to continue growth, or are they pulling back growth? Are they going to keep producing more copper? Or are they pulling back on their copper? And so they're very active in pushing back and forth. You've got China and U.S. Having a little bit of a trade tariff war going on right now. We have to see how that one's going to play out because that's having an impact on things. So there is a certain amount of uncertainty in the copper markets right now. The one thing we can say with certainty is that copper will continue to be an essential metal in the future of our human existence. So it's going to keep moving. Let's look at the candlesticks just to get an idea of what investors might be doing here. Let's go back to the week. So this is a 1 week chart. Each candlestick represents 15 minutes of trading. We are climbing. You can see that this is a nice upward slope. And whenever we do pull back a little bit, we eventually climb back out of it again. You know what happens, and we saw this with gold too, right? The price gets up there. A lot of people they're buying, the price is going up, going up, going up. And then people say, well, you know what, it's time to take some profits off the table. This drops the price back down, or the investors get a little nervous, whatever. And so the prices drop back down, and then it's like, okay, now they start climbing back up again. So that's what we've been, we're seeing going on here. If we look at the month, uh, I'm not quite sure what that aberration is all about right there. But you can see there's just a lot of uncertainty. You've got a lot of up and down. You've got this bold like, shape that occurred in the month that we're climbing out of now. So it's you just it's hard to pin down what's really going to happen here with the price or the future of copper. But if we go look at what they're saying for the forecast, and I want to draw your attention to this part of the chart over here. Oops, that's not this what I wanted. I wanted this. So draw your attention to this part right here. You can see that what the forecast is saying that it's going to drop and then recover, but it's not going to get that much higher than where we're at right now. And this is in line with a number of other sources that I investigated over the week. The everybody's kind of saying very similar things. It's just what is the actual number that the big names are looking at drawing to. Here at Trading Economics, they're saying looking forward, we estimate the trade at 4.58 in the 12-month time frame. So, it's going to be back. They're saying it's going to be back up here in this area that we're at now after it pulls down for a bit. I've seen other sources like Goldman Sachs that are talking about something in the 4.6 range. Morgan Stanley is saying 4.3. Citigroup is down in the threes, the mid to high threes. So we've got these volatile dynamics going on with copper right now that really make it challenging to decide. Do you hold on to it? Do you sell it? What are you going to do? I still go by my standard philosophy of keep 10% of your better copper grade, your number one, and continue to sell your other lower copper grades for your cash flow. Excuse me for a minute. This is really important when you're in sort of a volatile market like this, because by holding on to 10% of your number one copper and selling the rest, you're getting the cash flow that you want or that you need, but you can take advantage when that price turns back around again. So I would say if you've got a bunch of copper in your shop and you're scratching your head wondering what you should do, my recommendation is take 10% of the good copper, set it aside someplace, go ahead and sell the rest. Prices are pretty good right now. Probably going to drop off a little bit before it comes back again, depending upon what contracts your yard has and what your local yard has to do to satisfy their obligations to their mills. But that's a very reasonable approach to take with your copper. And if I was still doing what I was doing down in Florida with the street scrapping and the heavier type scrap, that's exactly what I would be doing. I don't get as much copper now because I'm focused on computers, servers, the electronics market, which is doing really well, by the way. But I do get a lot of insulated copper wire. I do get the copper aluminum heat sinks, some of the copper heat sinks and such. So I do have some copper that's coming in, just not the way I used to when I was down in Florida. Really interesting times going on with the copper. So let's see, what are you all doing with your copper? Let's see, I saw E-Waste Jill in the house. Welcome, Jill. And William, I think I said hello, William Walmart. I think I said hello. If not, welcome. So let's see. I'm trying to figure out where we dropped off here. And David had to sign off, so take care, man. Have a good week. So, what are you all doing with your copper? And more importantly, what are your yards doing with your copper? I mean, that's the, um, looking. Ian, by the way, Ian's been recovering from a really bad flu. So he's on the mend, but he's still got a ways to go. So Ian, you keep getting strong, man. Keep drinking that water, getting your rest, keep your vitamin C up. We're looking forward to you getting back 100%. Okay, we see our the videos from the various stackers where they stack their gold and their silver and things. They have either a dedicated room or some of them, a lot of them have safes. So yeah, that's a good way to protect it. Of course, don't lose the combination because that could be a really bad thing if you lose the combination. Mr. Matthews, he got sweet talked at 6.8 kilograms, so he took in 60% of his. Okay, all right. Roger is saying that his yard tends to save copper throughout the year. At the end of the last year, they sent out two semi loads, 80,000 pounds. Yeah, that's a, that's a lot of copper. That's a lot of copper there. And it's interesting that your yard retains the copper and then sells it. So that, I mean, I don't know for sure, of course, because I don't know how your yard is operating, but a lot of times yards will contract with mills to sell a certain amount on a recurring basis, monthly or quarterly. But if your yard is just keeping it and then selling it at the end of the year, that would suggest that they don't have any contract prices, and then they're just whatever their market will bear at the end of the year, that they're selling it at. Of course, the other really good thing about that is when you've got large loads like that, you're selling full truckloads of material, and that's the least expensive shipping cost of anything. And shipping costs are a huge factor in this business. I've been talking about that in some of my videos lately because I'm now getting enough material coming in that I can sell in Gaylord size quantities, which are shipped at what we call less than truckload rates here in the United States. So I'm not buying a whole trailer. I'm buying a small space on the trailer, 4 by 4 by 4 feet. And that has dropped my shipping price from what used to be between 75 cents and $1 a pound down to 40 cents a pound. And, I might even be able to get it lower than that. I'm still working with the shipping company to figure out the things that I need to do to get even lower shipping rates. But still, 40 cents a pound, that's the lowest shipping rate that I've had since I started business. And that's because I'm doing LTL rates. Now, each load is quite a bit more expensive. We're talking a couple $100 to ship that Gaylord instead of, $10 or $20. But when you do it by the pound, it's much less expensive. So anyway, Scrooge, welcome. Great to have you here. Gee, go figure. Mr. Matthews gave somebody too much information. There's a surprise. All right. Well, it is time to move on to our stock discussion for this episode. We got three companies three, three companies that I want to bring to your attention that I want to talk about. Um, for those of you that are new, um, you and those of you that have been here for a while, you know this, but for those of you that are new to the live streams, I use the Value Line Investment Survey for my primary source of data. The reason I use these folks is because they do not accept advertising. That means that all of their data is numbers, just the raw numbers and their analysis of the numbers. Now, they reference, of course, the company's SEC filings and their public information and such, but they are not swayed by advertisers. So, they don't have a bias in the way they report what's going on. And that I think is really important when you're trying to make some stock decisions. The first company that I want to talk about here, it's a excuse me, it is a electric utility company. Now, one of the things that I like about utility companies is because I'm a dividend investor. I want a boring company that's going to just keep paying me a reasonably high dividend, and that I don't have to worry about that going away. So I have three criteria. A company has to pass one of these three criteria in order for me to even consider investing in them. They have to have increasing cash flow per share for the last 17 years. I'll let one down year or flat year. They have to have increasing earnings per share or increasing dividends per share, again, for the last 17 years. And if you look at this company here in the United States called Southern Company, they are an energy provider in the Southeast. They do a really good job with this. They're what I call a div zero. So for the last 17 years, their dividends per share have always gone up. No flat years, no down years. They've always gone up, actually a lot longer than 17 years. Their dividend is reasonable. Sometimes they're over 4%. Right now they're at 3.4%. So it's a reasonable dividend. Now it's below what the average is for the utility sector, which is around 3.7%. But this is a pretty strong company. So, that's why I wanted to bring this one to your attention. Their share price is $86.50, so it's a little bit on the steep side, but it's a good, solid company. And if you're looking to put a utility company into your portfolio, this is a good one to think about. Now, there's some others out there, Dominion and Duke and stuff, that have a little bit better dividend, but they might be a little more volatile. Not that much. They're utilities, and here in the U.S., they're regulated, so there isn't a whole lot of volatility in these shares. So that's one for you to consider. But the two companies that I really want to talk about today, because they really play into our world of recycling and things, are the first one is Caterpillar. Now, we talk about gold and silver and copper and aluminum, and then we talk about the mining industry. Well, Caterpillar is very closely tied to that mining world, right? The big earth-moving equipment, the big dump trucks and cranes and things, Caterpillar makes a lot of those. And so when we see and hear about talk of slowing down in the mining industries, or, trouble starting up a mine or that kind of stuff, well, that really plays into what's going on with a stock like Caterpillar. So Caterpillar is qualified. Here, let me get this out of the way. You can see that they are a div zero. So they are qualified for consideration, but their dividend is not great. I mean, we're talking 1.4%. And that's on $395 a share. I mean, come on, who can afford that? Holy bajoli. So yeah, they're qualified, but that's just, that's a really expensive one. The analyst discussion is interesting on Caterpillar because, as you might imagine, there is some concern that the current administration's potential trade wars could have a negative impact as Caterpillar could get hit with tariffs, coming and going, and really cause some problems there. Plus, you've got big earth mines are very politically sensitive, and you get governments that are up and down, pro and con on the big earth mines, and therefore the big earth moving equipment has some issues. What the analysts at the investment survey are calling this is a momentum move. And so what they're saying is that if you buy the stock now, sometime in the next 6 to 12 months, the price of the stock will have gone up to the point where you can sell it and make some good money. But they're not really favorable on it for a buy and hold investment like I would. So yeah, I'm not buying this one. It's qualified, but I'm not going to get into this. Now, Caterpillar also, they do make power equipment, so they're also players in the power equipment and the generators and those kind of things. Speaking of which, my generator for my house has been fully installed, tested, and is online. So I'm ready for the next hurricane. Yeah, baby. It's a Generac. It's not made by Caterpillar or Cummins. In fact, I was curious as to who made the actual, the generator part in the generator that I have, and apparently Generac is making all their own stuff right now. They used to use Briggs and Stratton. They moved away from Briggs and Stratton a while back, and Briggs and Stratton started making their own home generator things. So anyway, Cummins, they are also qualified as a Div 0, as you can see over here. So they're a Div 0, but that's still not a great dividend at 2.1%. And that's on, again, almost $350 a share. And if you think about it, Cummins is going to have a lot of the same challenges that Caterpillar is going to have in this weird global political world that's going on right now, because they can be the powertrain or the power source for a lot of the big dump trucks and cranes and those kind of things. But if those big, I like to call them big boy toys, aren't getting aren't being bought, then that's going to be a problem on this company. Now they also, their engines drive a lot of the big generators that are out there, and a lot of the data centers that are out there. They rely on backup generators to kick in if the grid power goes down, just like my house. So there is a growing demand for the generator side of both these companies. And as who is it? Mike's pointing out that Cummins makes the oops, wrong button. Got to do that. Then we can do this. As Mike's pointing out, Cummins does make Onan generators. So there's the generator side of the market as well that is helping to offset the big equipment. So it's there's some offsets there that might help, but neither one of these companies is particularly good from the perspective of a dividend, long-term, buy and hold kind of thing. They're more like momentum kind of moves right now in the investment market. So I can't really say that I'm recommending either one out there unless you're a momentum investor, in which case you'll want to take a look at these, research them more carefully, and make your own decisions on which way you want to go with them. I just found them to be very interesting discussions because we talk a lot about the mining industry as it affects the gold and the silver and such. And these two companies play very heavily in the mining world. When there's a lot of mines opening, we're going to see more of this stuff in demand, and the prices can go up, vice versa. It's definitely, again, if you're a momentum buyer, take a good look at these because the analysts like these as momentum moves. I'm not a momentum buyer. So, what kind of things are going on um in the world of your thoughts on the stocks and the mining industry? Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, this is an interesting comment from Roger about shipping costs. Yeah, if you're using your own vehicles and to ship things, 2 cents a pound seems it says it's a 2 hour drive. So when he uses his own semi, it's 2 cents. I'd be interested to see how he's calculating that. Um, but I mean, I'm not saying that's not true. When because certainly I've thought about maybe driving a load up to boardsort.com myself. Just it's a it would be a day's drive to get up there. So when I think about the costs, I look at the wear and tear on the Sharkmobile, hotel room, meals on the road. So it's much more than just the gas that would go into what that real cost per pound would be for me. In a case like this, where he's like a 2 hour drive, he's got the truck and is probably, he's loading up a full semi full. Yeah, that would be a significantly lower cost per pound than what most people pay. So, that makes a lot of sense. And that's where a lot of people can, make the money in that margin of the shipping costs. Now, of course, owning your own vehicles like a semi truck has a lot of its own expenses that you got to figure that in some fashion that a lot of people don't properly account for just the routine cost of owning that truck to move stuff around. But certainly in a case like that, that makes a lot of sense for them and keeps their shipping costs extremely low compared to if they have to hire out somebody else. Everyday Solars is saying that shipping makes such a difference in the cost for sure. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And depending upon where you are in the world, it's not just shipping costs. You then incur tariffs and potential hazmat fees and all these other costs that will get rolled into the shipping cost of moving something around. Richard Holbert, welcome. I see you were late. No problem. You brought in 2 truckloads of computers today. That's cool. Um, Always good when somebody brings in a couple of truckloads of computers, isn't it? Yeah. Let's see. Mike is saying that his father worked for Duke Energy for a couple of decades, and I think he mentioned that last week. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, you did. We did. We talked about Duke last week, Mike. We sure did. Um, let's see. Everyday Sellers is also on the mend from her infection, so a lot of people getting flus and coughs and things out there. It's that time of year, so you got to be careful and watch out for that. Don't know what your feelings are on vaccinations and stuff. I get it. I get the flu vaccine every year, and I don't know, man. Maybe I've had the flu once or twice, but I've never really had it so bad that it put me down hard. And some years I don't get it at all. So, yeah, 25 years in the Navy, I'm just used to getting vaccines and getting my shots and doing what I have to do to stay healthy. So, but boy, the flu can really put you down if you're not ready for it. Uh, Richard's talking about the way he looks at stocks. Um, yeah, it's that's certainly a way to buy and sell stocks. That's not the way I like to buy and sell stocks. I don't have the time or the energy to pay that close attention to the movements of the stocks. So I'm a buy and hold kind of investor, going for the dividends, and that's the way that I try to promote these on this channel. If you're going to try to buy low, sell high kind of thing, you got to really be paying attention to what you're doing with that stock, because otherwise you're going to do what I used to do, and that is buy high and wait till they go bankrupt and lose everything. So if you're going to get in the stock market actively, then you need to be in the stock market actively. Otherwise, you have a lot of increased risk. If you're going to be a buy and hold investor, then you want to buy these dull, boring, dividend yielding things that I tend to talk about here. Or just, get one of the index funds and, don't worry about it. Let's see. HH Recycling is saying that he hates Cummins. They keep working at around 35, minus 35, and I just want to drink a cup of coffee in the shop. Oh, man, that's funny. Oh, man. Oh, that was funny, I got to admit. Let's see. Roger was commenting that he was thinking about driving up to Board Sort one time. But yeah, it does become a combination of, can you put enough stuff in the vehicle to make it worth the trip? For me, it would be less about the money that I make or save on the trip as it would be just getting a chance to meet Chris, firsthand and seeing the facility and everything. And yeah, long drives suck. I'm not a big fan of them either, Roger. I know there's some people out there that they don't care. They'll get in the car and they'll just drive and not even give it a second thought. But man, I'm not one of those people. I just don't like driving anymore. Not nearly as much fun as it was when I was younger. All right. Well, look, everybody, it is just about time for us to head over the pond and join our friends over in Ireland. So if you have autoplay enabled, when I end this broadcast here in a little bit, you will automatically be redirected to Ireland, where we will be able to join Scrapping Irish, and the panel. Never know who's going to come up on the panel over there. He does really try to bring up people on the panel that are scrappers, that talk about scrapping and have some good comments about scrapping. Never know what's going to pop up in the chat over on Irish's channel. It tends to be about a little more free-flowing kind of discussion, not as structured as I run this channel. So it's a lot of fun over there, and I encourage you to come join us. If you do not have autoplay enabled, or if the link, if you're not automatically redirected, please go on YouTube, type in Scrapping Irish, and join us over in Ireland. If I don't see you over in Ireland, have a safe week and get your N95s or your FEP2s, whatever they're called, where you're at. Make sure you have the right dust protection, and have a great week, everybody. We'll see you.